we're coming through okay. Are we causing any reverberating echo or anything?
No, you guys sound great.
Fantastic. So
Sure.
you're on. Go.
All right.
We got Sam online. We're ready to go. He's going to recap rigging. So get your models ready.
Hi, guys. Once again, I'd like to apologize for a bit of a scheduling conflict. But yeah, if it's okay with you guys, I'd like to do a recap on the rigging that we did last month. I'm just going to power through that really fast, and then yeah, we'll get into a little bit of animation. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay, cool. So I've got my platypus model here, and the first thing that we did last month was add our rig. So I'm going to do that.
Ignore this. I'm going to get a miss. I'm sorry. Let me get everybody. I'm going to send out a link to get anybody that wants to follow us in the world a copy of your rigged platypus model. Sorry about that, Sam.
Sure thing. What I'm going to do is actually save this. I was going to save this right after I'm done modeling. Done rigging. We'll take a break. I'll upload it, and then everyone can download it.
Okay.
Because I think there were actually some things that I missed last week or last month that I want to get to in this round.
Okay.
All
okay,
right,
you're on. Go for it.
So we start off by adding our armature object. That takes us into edit mode, where we're adding bones. And the very first bone that we added here is going to be, I'm going to call it the root bone. And that is the bone that everything else is going to be parented to. The next thing I'm going to do is take this root bone and move it in this direction so that its local axes line up with the global axes and also the local axes of the armature object itself. And that's going to make animating just a little bit less confusing for us moving forward. The next thing I'm going to do is you'll notice that in solid view, the bones of this character disappear inside of its body. But last month we fixed that by turning on X-ray. And that's going to help us see the bones of this model or of this armature while we're inside of the model while we're working on it and make our lives a lot easier. Next thing I'm going to do is turn on names so we can actually see the names of this armature's bones as we're working on it. Can you guys read the bone names, or should I try turning up the DPI on my display? What do you think?
Looks like we can read it. We've got it projected on a big screen here.
Oh, neat. All right, so I'm coming through it pretty high res then. That's good.
Yeah.
So now I've got my root bone. I'm going to bring my cursor back to the center. Okay, it's there in the center. And I'm going to add the next two bones, which are pretty important. We've got one bone here that I'm going to use as the pelvis, and another bone here that I'm going to use as sort of like the upper part of the spine, or in this case, the thorax. And we're going to name that, give them pretty simple names. I'm just going to call this one the chest bone. I'm going to call this one the pelvis bone. Now I'm ready to start extruding bones out and creating bone chains. So coming in this direction from the center of the armature, I'm going to extrude another bone, and I'm going to call this one the tailbone. Next thing I'm going to do is extrude coming in this direction towards the head. I'm going to create, you guessed it, a head bone. Name that head bone. The other thing I want to do as I'm doing this is turn on my axes as well, because sometimes when we make our bone chains, the axes of each bone, the normal axes, they don't seem to line up throughout the chain, and that can actually cause problems. For instance, you'll see that the chest bone here, the z-axis is pointing in this direction, but then for the head bone, the z-axis is pointing in this direction, and that's actually going to cause problems. For instance, if we wanted to turn on bendy bones, and then I started, say, turning up segments here, you'll notice that this is going to give us some twisting throughout the bone chain. So it's important to kind of pay attention to where these axes are pointing. But there's an easy fix. And that's what I'm going to do now. We're not going to use bendy bones just yet. So I'm going to turn those off. And now all I want to do is just...
Sorry for the interruption. You have
no problem.
Experience with bendy bones, Sam?
Oh, yes. They're very useful. And in fact, I think the first place we're going to enable this is on the tail. The tail is going to be like one of those places where it's pretty simple for us to add bendy bones, and you'll see what they can do for our rig to make it that much more bendy. So what I want to do here in edit mode is roll the bone. Now the thing is, by default, when you add bones in Blender, it's going to take care of the rolling for you. You'll notice that I can rotate this bone all day, and yet I still can't seem to affect where those axes are. So what I want to do instead is hit Control R, holding down Control so I can increment this bone and roll it up just 180 degrees. And now I've got a nice clean alignment here. Now your bones may not line up perfectly, but that's okay. We're not building a grand piano here. It's a platypus, and it's sort of a cartoonish platypus too, so that gives us a lot of room for error. The next thing we did was to add our bill bones, or our jaw bones. So I'm going to do that now. I've got one bone up here, which probably doesn't move that much, since on a duck-billed platypus, the upper bill doesn't move that much. But then I've got another one down here, and this is for the lower part of the jaw, or the bill. And in this case, I definitely want this one to have influence. Now I'm still looking at this in B-bone mode, but to make things easier for myself, I'm going to change this back to octahedral for the time being. And I'm just going to name these bones for my own convenience. I'm going to call this one upper bill, and then lower bill. Now, am I broadcasting to World Blender Day right now?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
No pressure.
No pressure. But does that mean
I'm
that
trying to
it sounds
communicate with the World Blender group on the other chats, but I can't.
Yeah.
I can't send web links.
Does it sound like I'm talking to myself right now? Like, how does this stream work?
It sounds like you're talking to yourself, but it's comfortable. It sounds a good quality, but yeah, we're here.
Okay, cool.
We're interactive.
All right. Well, for those of you watching on World Blender Meetup Day, I hope I don't sound too weird. All right. So we've got our upper bill and our lower bill, and I think that's a good place to put it for right now. Nothing too fancy. Now, as with the other bones, I want to just, and this is for my own convenience, I'm just going to rotate these up as well so that they're all pointing, the z-axis is all pointing in this direction. It's going to make things easy for us. If we can keep things in our rig as consistent as possible, that's going to make things so much less confusing when we get into the animation stage.
So that might be a more precise reason.
Now I'm ready to add the bones for this flippers that we made last month as well. And I'm going to go ahead and add those now.
Yes, I can.
First, I'm just going to place my 3D cursor on the back.
I'm trying to communicate
flipper here, and we'll sort of align it like this as best we can, like that. That looks all right. And like with everything else, I'm just going to rotate this up 90 degrees so that the axes are sort of consistent with everything else. Next thing I'm going to do is move this bone over here, rotate it to line up with the flipper, just like that. And we'll probably want to go ahead and name these as well. So I'm going to name this one back flipper L, and then front flipper L. And it's important that we end our names, our bone names with either L or R, because that's going to help Blender do lots of useful functions for flipping poses and bones and names and that kind of thing. The next thing we're going to do to flip these bones, I'm going to center my cursor here, and we're going to duplicate these bones and flip them about the 3D cursor, which is now in the center of the armature. So first thing I'm going to do is hit Shift D to duplicate these bones, then right click to leave them where they are. Then I'm going to hit Control M, X. Oh, wait, I'm still flipping them on the local, on their own local origins. So what I need to do first is set the pivot point to 3D cursor. Let's try that one more time. Control M and then X, bam. Now I've flipped those bones perfectly, and they're a perfect mirror of the bones on the other side. Here's another cool feature. I'm going to press spacebar and type it in because there's no hotkey for this. Flip names, and look at that. Now it flipped the names for us. So we have back flipper R and front flipper R. And so that's actually all there is to it. That's all the bones we need in our rig for right now. The next part we're going to do, and we got into this a little bit last year, or last month, but if I'm not mistaken, all we did was skin the bill to the rig, and we attached our flippers to the rig, but we never actually got around to attaching the fuselage or the whole body of the platypus to the rig. All right, so moving right along, let's start with these little flippers. Let's do those first. So the first thing we need to, you'll notice that, and this is sort of a recap of the lesson last month, is that we've made all our bones, but of course we have to actually attach everything to our rig here. So we can move these bones all day, but we haven't actually done anything in Blender to relate our mesh models to this armature that we've just made. So we actually have to manually attach everything. And I'll go through that really quickly right now. First thing we want to do is, let's start with the very top here. Let's start with the bill. We've got upper bill and we've got lower bill. And this is pretty easy because we've got two separate bill objects here. This makes it pretty easy to attach. So what I'm going to do is attach this entire bill object here directly to the bone. And you'll want to do this in pose mode in the armature. I'm going to select the upper bill, and then I'm going to right click, holding down Shift to select this bone here. Then I'm going to hit Control P, and I'm going to do the simplest kind of armature relation. And that is to parent this object directly to the bone. So now when I move this, it just moves the entire object. I'm going to do the same thing with the lower part of the bill here. I'm going to select it, holding down Shift, and then select this bone here, the lower bill bone, and I'm going to hit Control P again and select bone. And so now I've parented this object here to this bone, and this object is now connected to this bone. So that works out pretty well. Now let's do the flippers. Now this next part's going to be a little complicated, or slightly more complicated than with the bill here, because we've got both these sides here, both flippers that need to be connected to either bone, but they're in one object. Both of these two different flippers are part of one object, and in fact that object has just been mirrored. But here's a cool trick we can do. We don't actually have to apply this and then split these different objects into different objects. We don't have to do that actually. What we can do instead is just add another modifier in our stack, and we can be as non-destructive as possible. So I'm going to click here, add modifier, and I'm going to add an armature modifier. By default, you're going to see in the very beginning, this is highlighted red, and that just means that we haven't really selected an armature object to influence this mesh. So that's the next thing we're going to do. Click right here, and I'm going to select the only armature object in our scene right now, which is just called armature. So now we're ready, and nothing happens. We still have to do another step, and that is to actually associate vertex groups to the bone names in this armature. So the next step is to go to our vertex, our mesh data settings here, and I'm going to add 2 vertex groups. And we're going to name these vertex groups the same names, and this is very important, the exact same names, case sensitive and everything, of the bones that we want to influence, or that we want to have influence this mesh. So the first vertex group, I'm going to name front flipper L, and the one just below it, I'm going to name front flipper R. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I only need to assign these vertices, all of these vertices, to the first vertex group. And then because we have this mirror modifier here, it's going to automatically assign the mirrored vertex groups, or the mirrored vertices, to the other vertex groups, because we have that nice little LR system going on. So I'm just going to assign that here. And now you'll notice that in pose mode, we can move both these flippers independently. Now let's move on and do the same thing to the back flippers. Again, same deal. I'm going to add another armature modifier, select the only armature object in the scene, and then assign those vertex groups to the vertices, or assign the vertices in this mesh to each vertex group. And it's pretty straightforward. If you wanted, we could even have all of these flippers be in one object. That would make things even more convenient. Now we're going to, of course, wiggle the bone to make sure that it works. And it does. Awesome. Next thing I want to do is parent these eyeballs here. I want to parent them to the head bone, but there's something going on here. You'll notice that we missed a step, and this is my fault. When we were doing the rigging, we never actually assigned our parents, or our bone relations, to the different bones in the chain. So you'll notice that if I move this head bone, one might expect these bill bones to move as well, except they don't. So we have to go back into edit mode and just change those relations and make sure that everything is parented correctly. All right, so now that's a little better. I'm going to take these front bones here. I'm going to parent them to the chest bone. I'm going to take these back bones here, or these back flipper bones here, and parent them to the pelvis bone. Next, I'm going to make sure that the pelvis bone and the chest bone here are each parented to the root bone. So everything in the end comes down to this one root bone here. It's a good way to organize your rig. The next thing we want to do, we want to take these eyeballs here, and we're going to parent them to the head. That's easy. Again, we'll do it just like the way we did with the bill here. I'm just going to select the eyeballs, then select the head bone, and parent them just like that. All right, so that leaves us with, I think, where we left off last week, which is to do some weight painting so that we can skin this entire mesh to be attached to these 4 bones in our rig. We've got the head, the chest, the pelvis, and the tail. So just to recap, how are you guys doing over at Blender PDX? Are you doing okay?
We're doing good for whoever's following you. I finally figured out myself how to help the person in need. We've got one question. How do we get the disconnected bones off into the flippers, into the arms?
Yeah. So you're saying when you talk about the disconnected bones, you mean these bones here?
They're not. Yeah, we're doing extrude. We've extruded for the whole body, but how do we get the flipper bones over there?
Okay. So what we want to do is actually not extrude when we make these flipper bones, because these little flipper bones are not part of the chain in the same way that the tail and the pelvis bones are. We actually want these flipper bones to be free floating, because we're just going to be rotating them and translating them independently from the rest of the body, sort of like Rayman. So what you want to do in the case of these flipper bones is place your 3D cursor outside, sort of roughly where you want the bones to go, and then hit Shift A to add a bone.
Or edit or object mode.
We want to be in edit mode when we do that. So we want to be in edit mode when we're adding or deleting bones, and then in pose mode when we actually get around to animating. Let's move right along to skinning this bad boy here. What do you say? The last step, the step that we missed last month, was rigging this whole mesh, the whole body mesh, to the bones. So I've sort of powered through everything else, and then for this part, maybe I can go a little bit slower, and describe what I'm doing in a little more detail.
Let me see if our last follower is ready. Are you ready for follow one?
For those of you who are still watching online, I'm waiting for Blender PDX, and we're gonna, because these are the guys that I was originally doing this project with. So we're gonna wait on them to get everyone up to speed, and then I'm gonna do the last rigging step, which is the most complicated one, and that is a little bit of weight painting.
Okay, Sam, we got one flipper in there, the back right flipper, it looks like.
Oh, you guys are still on the flippers.
Yeah, we were having a problem moving it around. We thought it was edit mode and it was object mode, something like that. We don't have the dotted line showing the connection to the whole body. Maybe we don't have something turned on for illustration, or did we do it wrong?
Yes. So the thing about these little relationship lines, the dotted lines, that you can either enable or disable them down here in the display settings of the sidebar menu in your view. See this? So I can turn them off and then off and on.
Where were those relationship lines again, Sam?
Yeah, those are going to be under display.
Display, got it.
And down here, you'll see this checkbox here called relationship lines.
Relationship lines is checked. I'm not seeing
if that's on, it's checked, and something is parented to another thing. Well, if it's on and you still don't see those relationship lines, then those two things are not parented to each other.
They're not parented.
Yeah, I mean that's the only explanation. Either that, or you've got some kind of OpenGL draw error.
We got someone else with more experience than my inadequacies helping him out. So hey, Sam.
Oh, don't say that. Hey.
Well, go ahead. We're good.
Yeah, as you can see, we've parented everything to our armature except the most important thing, which is the body. So let's do that now. We've got 4 vertex groups that we're concerned about here. The head, chest, pelvis, and tail. So let's go ahead and create those 4 now. We've got one for the head, another for the chest, then pelvis, and then tail. Next thing we want to do is add that armature modifier. We did it in a slightly different order than last time. And of course, we still need to actually assign those groups. So here's where it gets kind of interesting. As it stands, we want the relationship between these vertex groups to have a little bit of overlap. So we don't want to have this situation where we're moving the head bone and it's just perfectly just like creates a hard seam when we move these different parts. We want there to be we want this to be kind of like a very smooth sort of bendy animal. So we want to do well. Let's just jump right into it. Let's see how this looks. I'm going to take all of these vertices here. I'm going to go ahead and assign them to the head vertex group. I'm going to take all of these vertices here, assign them to the chest, take these, and assign them to the pelvis, and then these here, I'm going to assign them to the tail. Let's see how that looks. Right off the bat, not terrible. Not too bad. What do you think?
Looks like there's a little pinching at the base of the tail, next to the bottom.
We've got a little pinching, and also you'll notice that the volume of this model doesn't really seem to stay consistent.
Yeah.
Also, there's something weird going on here. I must have accidentally assigned vertices that I didn't mean to. Or did I? What could be causing this?
I was thinking.
We've got a mirror modifier. That's what's going on.
Oh, mirror modifier.
Woo. Yeah, let's go ahead and. Actually, we don't really need to. Do we need to apply that? Yeah, let's go ahead and apply this.
Yeah, suggest applying it at this point, I guess.
Yeah, we don't necessarily need to, but it's such a simple model that we might as well, just to make things go faster. I know I just said earlier that we shouldn't to avoid, to stay non-destructive, but in this case, I'll make an exception. Now this is very strange. When I move the chest bone, seems to be causing a problem here with the back, the tail, and that should.
What is causing that?
That should not be happening, guys. This is embarrassing. Let's see. I'm going to disable all these other vertices. What I'll do is remove everything.
Yeah, the other thing I was speculating was maybe you had some vertices selected when you assigned any vertices.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, except something else seems to be going on here. What could be causing that rogue deformation? I wonder if anyone's screaming the answer at me in the YouTube chat. Tell you what, we'll go into weight painting. See if we can find the problem there. No, still nothing. By all accounts, this chest bone should not be moving anything, and yet it's moving. Ooh, very strange.
Yeah, that is. What is causing that?
What could be causing that? Oh, here we go. It was the head bone the whole time.
You notice there was a little bit.
Guys, look at that.
So like in head bone, in weight painting and showing that he's got some.
So unassign and
All we
reassign.
need to do is just remove.
Yes.
And
There
now,
we go. That's much better. So it was the head bone the whole time. All right. Let's turn the subsurfacing back on. Yeah, so that's one problem solved. For those of you that have that very common problem, that actually happens all the time in rigging when you accidentally assign vertices to the wrong bone, or you fail to assign certain vertices to any bones in your armature, you'll have these terrifying things that happen in your rig where you'll move your character's head, and then their head will move, but their teeth will stay in the same place, and it's horrific. The results are just terrible.
Yeah, I have that and many other problems happen for me.
Can you imagine if that happened in real life?
I actually knew what was wrong there, but I wasn't controlling it, and I didn't know how to control it to find it and correct it, but you got it.
So we fixed that little problem there. But we still got a much bigger problem, which is that the deformation of this character, guys, it's just not good enough. And the reason for that is that we've got this little thing going on where the armature modifier comes before the subsurface modifier. And that's not always the best way of doing things, particularly because it's going to sort of, in certain cases, it's a good idea. It's good to have the armature come before the subsurface modifier. But let's see what happens when we do it the other way around. Now, there's still some other problems going on here. It's not perfect, but
it looks better.
It looks a little bit better. We're preserving the volume that much more, which is going to be it's going to help us. So yeah, it doesn't look quite as good, or I mean, it doesn't look, still not perfect, but it's certainly a lot better.
Can't we do the weight painting so that the bending influences different parts at different strengths?
That is also something we can do. The only problem is that because we haven't applied our subsurface modifier, the amount of weight painting that we can do is actually pretty limited. You'll notice that if I turn on, let's see if I can turn on faces here so you can see these lines. You'll notice that we can still only paint at places where there are actual vertices in the mesh. So the only way to give us more control over this is to apply 1 degree of subdivision, which might not actually be a bad idea in this case. But I think for the time being, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you want to fine tune this rig, or do you want to get into some animation?
We're happy with the current mesh. Let's move on to animation.
Okay, cool.
After you've done your basic animation tutorial, we've got at least one person ready with a challenge on their animation. Okay.
So the next thing we're going to do is it sounds like we want to move straight into animation, which is the most fun, the most exciting part of I think of doing anything in Blender. But before we do that, I'm going to teach you guys something even more boring than rigging. Yay! And this is actually really important that we cover this topic because this is going to, oh man, you're going to thank me later. We're going to talk about linked libraries. Everybody clap because that's just so much fun. Yay! Yeah, no, this part is super boring, guys, but we have to cover it because in any sort of project where you have your character that appears in more than one shot, it's always a good idea to keep your character in one file and all of your animations, which you render and do all your animation work, in another file, so that we avoid duplicating all of this character's data over and over and over again for every different shot and every different scene that we have. Because then if you ever want to go back and fix something in your rig or make a slight adjustment to your character, maybe make him a little bit more realistic or change his color or anything like that, now you've got to go back and make that change for as many different times as you've duplicated him, which is, needless to say, really tedious. So let's go ahead and do a little linked library work here. Now, the next thing I'm going to do.
Before you move on,
Yeah.
we've got one person moving the upper and lower bill bones, and it's moving the bill all around unnaturally on the head.
Right.
So not like this.
Oh, I know what you did, Paul. Did you assign the vertex groups for the upper and lower bill, or did you assign? Well, it looked like Paul was moving both the upper and lower at the same time. You still there, Sam? Or did we lose you?
I am actually still here.
Oh, okay. It sounded like we lost you.
No, I'm still here, and
we got our physically located expert helping out Paul. So
okay,
ahead.
cool.
For the world, go ahead.
Okay, so the last thing I want to do for my rig is parent these objects because the skinning was done at the mesh data level with modifiers for these 3 objects here. I still need to parent them directly to the armature object. So that's what I'm going to do now. And now everything in my character is nice and contained in the armature object. You can even see up here in my outliner, I've got armature.
That was pretty quick. Did you just selected them both, the armature and then the mesh, the platypus, and parent them? Control P.
Yeah, Control P, and then you do not bone but armature object. The reason for that is that while we can have we did that already when we parented these parts up here specifically to the bill and head bones. But when we started doing skinning and weight painting down here, we were doing that at the mesh data level, which means that although the mesh data is being moved by the bones when we move them around in pose mode, the objects themselves are still not moving around with the armature object. So that was that last step that we did just to make sure that everything is either parented to a bone or parented to the entire armature object and then modified by an armature modifier.
Okay, Sam, we've got the Control P menu up, and you selected object at the top of the list, right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, so select that and see what happens.
Once again, I want to remind you guys that you should always finish your rig by doing the special rig dance, which is
the special rig dance.
You want to do the special rig dance,
just a jiggle,
which is to select the entire armature object and just shake it around and rotate it and make sure that everything rotates along with it. Make sure everything scales properly. You want to do this with every single bone, actually. You want to make sure, just wiggle all the bones and make sure that you don't get any unexpected behavior when you transform these bones. You always want to give your rig the stress test to avoid
what we've got
problems.
Is, evidently, we've got separate objects of the body and the flippers and the bill, and we didn't select those. The body is moving with the entire armature, but the flippers and bills are staying behind.
Yeah, no, that's that would you have to do that on an object by object basis. So if these,
so how do we clear out of that? I guess just do Control Z.
So what you want to do is move the entire armature object, and then anything that doesn't move with it, you want to double check its relations, and that means double checking the modifiers, the armature modifiers that are affecting it, and also go directly to the object properties and look under here under parent and see what exactly it's parented to, if anything at all.
We're checking it. Hold on, Sam.
While I'm waiting for everybody,
does it matter what order we select everything? Do we want to select the armature last or the body last?
It's you want to select the object, the child object first, and then what you're parenting to it to last.
Yeah, let's
And you want to make sure that you're in object mode for the armature when you do it.
Okay, so the armature will be last.
That's correct. While nobody's looking, I'm going to turn on B-bones.
Oh, the eyes. Oh, we forgot the eyes.
We're so close. It's so close.
Whoa. That's much better. I wonder if it works down here too. Yeah, it kind of does work. I like that. I'm not going to do that for the head.
We're on track. Go ahead, Sam. We're back online.
Oh, you just caught me in the middle of some bendy bones.
Oh, the bendy bones?
No, it's okay. All right, so now we've got everything kind of contained in our armature object. We've got all our data. All of our data is nicely organized. All our bones are named, and everything is skinned at least somewhat appropriately to the armature. So now the last thing I want you guys to do in this file is to, and then after I do this, I'm going to save it and give you guys a link. The last thing I want you guys to do is select everything in the character. Not the camera or the light, not anything else that you might have in your scene, but everything associated with this character. That is the armature, and then everything parented to it. So yeah, just box select this whole thing, and then I want you to hit Control G. And that's a very special button, very special hotkey, because now we've just put everything into a group. I'm going to press T over here and modify some of the parameters of what I just did. And I'm going to change this group name from group to hopefully something much more useful. I'm going to call this Platypus. No. I'm going to call it Platy. Platy the Platypus. It's very creative. And then, oh wait, no, this is also very important. The last thing you do is name your armature object. It can't just be armature. Otherwise, if you want, more than 2 characters in your scene, and then both of the rigs are named armature, it's going to get confusing. So for good diligence, I'm going to name this one Platy Rig. And that's going to make it a lot easier for us to animate it and for us to find it when we create something called object proxies. And then, now we're ready to save it.
Proxies. We've got one person's model. The bones, the chest bone is disconnecting from the tailbone.
You got a disconnected chest bone. That's gotta hurt.
It's stretching the platypus body. You have any idea what's causing that?
Can you describe the issue to me one more time?
Yeah, hold on, I'm checking it. Okay, we got it. We got it handled. So go ahead. What were we going to do again? I'm sorry.
I think that's it, right? Did you name your rig? Did you name your armature object?
Let me check. Did everybody name their armature object so that you can tell it from anything and everything else? Well, they can all go watch Jonathan Williamson. You got Blender PDX here, buddy. Just keep on going.
Okay.
You got the people that count, the people that need you the most.
Well, I appreciate that, guys. And again, I'm very sorry for being not physically present at today's Blender PDX.
It's fine not being physically present. I was just a little shocked that we were expecting you to walk in the door. I didn't know you. I thought you were going to show up here.
I was half considering that, but then I decided to stream like this.
All right. Well.
Okay. So
What was it we were going to do next?
The next thing we're going to do is animation. And actually, what I'm going to do is, well, I've already saved this file. So the next thing we want to do is actually, did everyone save their file?
Did everyone say what?
Did everyone save their platypus file?
File.
I should put this this file online. Should I do that now?
Yeah, you can.
Online?
Yeah, let me send you a link to the G drive for Blender PDX, and I've already got Michael's rigged platypus there. Let me do that here.
Oh, dude, I'm way ahead of you. I'm gonna make this so that everyone can download this on who's watching on YouTube. Check
Yeah,
this out.
I tried doing that on the another view from Theory Animation or Theory Studio.
It'll just take a moment. Sure. Okay, so I'm just testing this. Yes, it worked. Okay, cool. Here, I'm gonna bring up for all of you guys watching on YouTube, I'm gonna bring this up in the Blender text editor. I'm going to go to tinyurl.com/bpdx02. I'm going to make that text really big. Dang,
As soon as you, okay, there we go. Okay, can you pull up the chat? Look at your Zoom bars down at the bottom.
Maybe I can post the link. Oh no, you can't actually post links in the chat window.
Not in YouTube, but go to the Zoom window that you're broadcasting from. You know, you're viewing or viewing your screen.
Yeah.
The Zoom window.
Ooh, I see. I've got an interface here.
Yeah, and there's a chat down at the bottom. If you see bottom center, you've got participants, Q&A, share screen.
Aha, I
Down
see
at
it.
the bottom. There we go. Got it.
Yeah, so it's just tinyurl.com/bpdx02.
Are we ready here, everybody? Here in Blender PDX world?
Still waiting on Blender PDX to give me the go-ahead.
Nobody needs more time. Go ahead.
All right, cool. I'm going to save this one more time because I'm just going to be obsessive about that. And then we're just going to add a new, we're just going to start a new file. Brand new file.
Brand new file.
Brand new file. Brand new file, and we're going to delete the cube and maybe turn this light into a sun, and that's it. Okay, so this next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to bring in an instance of the character that you just created in a brand new file. What I'm going to do is in my brand new file, I'm going to go to File, and then I'm going to go all the way down to Link here. Not Append, that's something different. It's not as good. We want to do Link. I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to find that platypus file that I just created. And then I'm going to go here and go into, now I've clicked on the platypus file, and now I'm looking at all the different data blocks that I am able to link from that file. I'm going to go to Group. I'm going to link this group here, Platy, the one I just made. I'm going to select it and hit Enter, and there it is. Now, here's the thing about group instances, though, is that it's sort of a black box. We can't actually do anything with this model just yet. So this next keyboard combination I'm going to do is it's a bit of a doozy, but it's super, super important. I'm going to hit Control-Alt-P. And then I'm going to select the rig or object, that is the armature object in this menu here. What I've just done is create an object proxy, which enables me to edit one of the objects in this group instance and pose it and stuff and have it affect everything else in that group instance.
I'm following along with what you're doing, but maybe if you can explain why we're doing this. Why are we doing it in a new Blender file and not the one that we just created?
So the thing about making an animation just right in the first file is that at the scale that we're working on, it might be okay. It might be okay to just animate the object that you just, modeled and rigged. However, you can potentially run into problems. For instance, if you ever want to go back and make any changes to the object, to the character, you've got this issue where you've got to edit an object that is currently being animated, and it's going to be a little bit inconvenient. If you want to make not one shot, but two shots with this character, if all you were doing was just duplicating, you would have to duplicate that animated character and then delete all of the keyframes on it, and potentially, go create all of this redundant data where you have to make like redundant models, and redundant mesh models, redundant mesh armatures and stuff.
Idea that you were saying that you're creating a linked library. Does this go back to that idea of you're trying to keep the character file separate from the animation file, and is that why we're making a new
That
file?
is correct.
Correct.
That is absolutely right. We want to, and this is the same thing that that we did for one of the online courses that we made. Is that we had our models, we had our characters, we had our assets, and they were all in one folder. And then you do your actual animation in a completely different file, and that not only makes things more efficient in terms of avoiding creating lots of data. It also makes things a lot more error resistant. Right. So the stage where you actually attach one file to another file happens down here when you link. And what we're doing there when we click on link and then we actually find that data block and bring it in is that we're creating a dependent relationship between two different Blender files. And technically, we haven't saved this file yet, but as soon as we do, this file that I'm currently about to animate in is going to be dependent on the character file. And that's why it's very important to keep all of your models, all of your assets in the same directory, or at least in the same directory structure as your animation files. You want to keep everything organized so that those animation files always know where to go to find those character files, to find those assets. And that can either be relative file paths or through absolute file paths.
If I just did that, should I be seeing a platypus on my screen? I'm still just seeing a box, even though I just linked to it. Why do you just send it to me?
So you just you clicked link and you found the group, but then nothing?
Yeah.
Try hitting Shift A and then adding it as a group instance. Check this out. Go down here. If you actually linked it correctly, it'll be down here under group instances, and you can select it here and then add it just like that.
We got one person who's trying to add the link, and you went into the what was it that you went at? What you added the group instance?
That's right. So what I did was I went to link, and then I found that file, the character blend file.
We're not seeing the group instance on this one. Okay, no, yeah, we're not seeing that. It's under
you don't see this folder here that says group.
No. Did you go back out of this? Go back out of this.
Now you won't see if you don't see the folder. That means you didn't create a group in that file.
Oh, okay. So we have to go back and create a group in the file. I don't suppose you can go through that for two of us. Can you go back into the first file and show how the steps of making the group for two of us?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
No problem.
Okay, you watching, Paul?
Oh, sorry. That was
Okay, so
Back in the original Platypus one, right?
I don't know how to do that.
okay, so you see how all these objects are highlighted green?
Okay.
If they're highlighted green, that when you select them, that means that they're in a group.
Yeah, we have to make a group. So we highlight everything, the armature and the objects.
Yeah, draw a big box around everything.
Draw a big box around everything except the camera, right? The camera and the light, we don't want to do that, right?
Yeah, you don't want the camera and the light.
Okay, now what do we do? Control G, how do you make a group?
Yeah, it's Control G. Okay, so we're still waiting on Blender PDX.
I can't even do it.
Guys, is there anything I can do to help?
I don't know.
Can you take the webcam and just like point it at everybody?
And when we try to load the link the file to a new Blender, it doesn't have groups.
Oh, if that's the case, then you saved a file that did not have a group in it. You have to, you got to group the objects and then you got to save the file. Okay, so guys, if I can direct your attention to my screen, if your objects are grouped, you can go to your object properties here, and you will see a group here.
Yeah, you don't have any.
And you just want to. That's your group. It's right there. So if you have this,
we just discovered that there aren't any groups, so we did something wrong when we tried to create a group.
yeah. Did you press Control G?
Yeah.
Let's undo it now.
Yeah, we named it.
Select everything you want.
We're going to try it again.
So select the bones and the.
You got to press Control G, and then everything that's selected, it will turn green.
Sam, isn't the quickest way to do that just to draw the box around it?
Yeah, more.
That's correct. Yes. If you hold Control, you can even draw a circle around it. Check this out.
And your
Woo! Oh, if you press C,
Whatever you want
you
there.
can paint your
Okay, we're
selection.
getting it. We're almost.
Or check this out. You can go in your outliner, hold down Shift, click on all those. That selects everything.
All right, now go ahead and save.
Or you can select everything and then deselect your light and your camera.
The sun.
This has been Selecting Objects and Grouping Panel.
And now groups.
There's the group. We got it.
And now you select your render and it goes there.
Are we making progress over there at
Yes,
Blender PDX?
Yes. Yes, he's got it. Okay, we're in.
Okay, awesome. So going back to our animation file, there it is. How many people are in their new animation file?
Yeah, hold on. It looks like we didn't select everything for the group. It looks like the bill and the flippers are missing.
Oh, you got to select those things. But you can actually, what you can do is you can go back into your character file and then select those other things.
He's getting guidance.
And okay, you just want to make sure that everything is in one group.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know why it didn't.
I didn't catch all the different ways you had for selecting everything that you wanted to select, but couldn't you hit double A until everything was selected and then deselect the camera and the light if they were on the same layer?
There is more than one way to select a platypus.
Yes.
So now, yeah. How about this? Let's create a new group with them all. So select your.
Okay, we're trying to create a new group all together right now.
Okay.
Control G. And let's give this a new group name.
There's always one platypus in the group that wants to cause problems.
Of course.
Sorry, that's me.
Oh, is it you?
Yeah.
Well, see, this is much better than watching a tutorial, because if we had this problem watching a tutorial, there's no way to interact and say, hey, what the hell is happening? What the hell did I do wrong?
Save this one.
You already saved it, right? If you have
You're doing things that we're not following along on, you know.
Oh, I'm just playing ahead.
Okay.
I don't know if I should instruct you guys.
Okay, if the
what I'm
instructor is trying to get his ability to instruct properly going, okay, great.
I don't know if I should. I'm doing something, but I
You're
don't
going
know
off on
whether,
your own, leaving us behind.
I don't know what. Well, the thing is, I just don't know whether I should advise you guys to do what I'm about to do.
Yeah.
you got your flippers this time.
Looks like a dead fish.
And go ahead and save this.
Yeah,
as a
go ahead and save it and link it and before we go on. Because let's see if we got it right this time.
And make this a new thing. You should not overwrite what you had before. Here,
Is this where I put a name in?
yes. Stuff like that. This way to organize the players are not like this.
Hey, Sam, did you watch any videos of platypus, real platypuses in action? Or are you just making up the movement?
No, I'm just making up a little platypus dance here.
Because I got about 4 videos downloaded, and I'll give the links to it some appropriate time so people can watch the movements of real platypi. Is that
Sounds
how you
good.
say the plural of platypus?
Yes.
It is?
Platypi.
Does anybody, just trivia quiz since we're still waiting on Coons, who knows how to say the correct plural of octopus? Nope.
Octopodes.
No. Octo is Greek for 8, and plural in Greek is pedes, so it's octopedes. Just thought I'd hit you with some trivia that I learned. Hey, Sam, can you put a mirror modifier on an armature? You don't want to do that, do you?
Usually no. I don't think you can. I don't think you can put a mirror modifier on an armature.
How do we mirror the right and left sides again? Oh, we got it. We got some help. Fantastic. It's nice to have someone here locally.
Yes. Once again, I apologize for not being able to.
You don't have to apologize. It is a little bit more convenient to have someone who knows how.
You should feel real bad, Sam.
Yeah.
I feel super bad.
You know that second dinner I was going to treat you to? You can forget
Yeah,
it.
I don't get it. I don't get that second dinner.
Yeah, the second meal. Next time you're out here physically, I'll buy you another meal.
Goodness, I got my front flippers textured.
You got it? You textured flippers? You good? Are we ready to go then? Wow. Okay, well, is it working? This is your linked file, right? Because we want to move on. You ready, Paul? Okay, I think we're ready over here, Sam.
Okay, cool. So, ignore everything I just did.
Yeah, we were. Yeah. Go ahead. Do we need to get our bones looking like those that you've got now, the little sticks?
Yes, this is assuming that you're in your new animation file. You've linked the group instance, and you've created a proxy for your for your armature. Like so. Is everyone at that stage?
I'm checking. Do you have your X-ray? Okay, we've got everything that you've got, except we don't have the X-ray vision of the bones.
Yes. You're going to want to change that. Again, in the X-ray, you want to select the armature and
Select the
change
armature,
it.
but how? They've got the instance. The
We
group.
just
Have you-
it.
Have you
That's all
created
it is.
have you created the object proxy yet?
No,
Okay.
not done that.
No, we haven't. How do you create the object proxy? I thought that
So you-
guys did.
So you want to hit Control. You want to select that group instance, and you want to hit Control Alt P.
Control Alt P.
That's right.
I think we missed that step. Then what?
All right. So when you hit Control Alt P, you're going to be presented with a menu for all the different things that you can add a proxy for. And the only thing you want to add a proxy for in this case is the armature object. So whatever you named that armature object.
Platy rig. Yeah, select Platy rig. Okay. Okay, we see it. Now click on this. That's your X-ray. There we go. We got it now. Now
All right,
he's
cool.
got where is it?
Yeah, I've changed my display mode to stick. Makes it a little bit easier to see stuff. And I've also turned off the axes. I might leave the names.
Okay, now we've got what you got, or some of us.
I don't know how you got here.
Okay, we're on the same page.
Okay, so everyone at Blender PDX is on the same page now. Can you guys all see your bones, and you can still move them in your character and everything, and it works okay? You guys can do this, right? Do the rig dance. Yes, it is true. I am fully rigged. This is how you animate me.
Yeah. What was the combination again? Control Alt P or
That's the one. That's Control Alt P
yeah,
to make a proxy. Okay, so let's go straight into making like a sort of swim cycle. Let's see how far we can get. One thing I want you guys to all do right now, though, is to just save your animation file to the same directory that your that your Platypus file is in. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm just going to take I'm just going to call this Platypus animation. Guys, I bet you I can have you guys do like a really fast swim cycle in just 10 minutes.
Go for it. We'll watch. Okay. I don't think everybody will be able to keep up with you the way it's been going.
No, I mean, no. That's slowed down. I can make this swim cycle in 60 seconds.
Okay, well,
here's what we're gonna do. I want everyone to get into side view on their Platypus, and I want you to take this bottom window here that was the timeline. I want you to change it into a dope sheet. See down here?
Yeah.
Make it a dope sheet. We're gonna be editing some keyframes.
Everybody find the dope sheet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so here's kind of a fun little technique that we can do. I want you guys to take the head bone here. I want you to rotate it, bend it up like this, and I want you to do the same thing with the chest bone. Bend it up, and then we're going to take this bone here, the pelvis bone, bend it down, and the tail bone. We're going to bend it down as well. Now here's what I want you to do. I want you to select all four of those. I want you to select all four of those bones that you just bent, like this. And I want you to hit I and insert a rotation keyframe on frame 0 here.
I think he had.
Is it location rotation, did you say, Sam?
Just rotation. We're only adding rotation keyframes for these 4 bones that we just manipulated on frame 0.
Okay, so we're good to go on then, I think, Sam?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to take your cursor here on the timeline. I want you to move it to frame 10.
If he's not in one, we can move this.
You just drag it.
Okay.
How do you move the cursor to frame 10?
How do you move the cursor to frame 10? You left click and drag?
That's correct. You just click anywhere, and that's the frame you go to.
Oh, left click anywhere and it goes.
Yep. With left click anywhere, it goes to frame 10. No, you got to click on. You got to click on frame 10. All right. So now that we're on frame 10, I want you to take these bones that we just manipulated here in side view, and I want you to do. I want you to bend them in the opposite direction. So that's what I'm going to do here. Now you may not want to go as extreme as what I'm doing, but why not? And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to select all 4 of them and add another rotation keyframe. So now we've got 2 keyframes here. See what I'm doing here when I scrub?
Do we have to make that sound effect to make it work?
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't work unless you do the sound effect.
Okay, everybody.
Or actually, if you've done it correctly, it'll sort of make that sound effect. Like,
Oh, okay. Okay, mine's not working now. Now hit.
Oh, we're gonna do dubstepping too.
yeah, we're beatboxing now. This is part of it. This is all part of the animation course. I can beatbox too. Jonathan Williams got nothing on this.
Now can I do that with my?
Jonathan Williamson, fight me. Okay, did everyone do that? Does everyone have 2 keyframes?
It looks like it.
Yeah, good frame.
Everybody's got 2 keyframes? Yeah.
Okay, here's the next thing I want you to do. We're going to duplicate the first keyframe that we made. So I want you to select this keyframe at the top here. Right-click on it, make sure it's selected, and then we're going to duplicate it with Shift-T, and I'm going to take it all the way to frame 20.
What keys did you do? Right click and.
That was select this keyframe, select this all this is one keyframe, which depending on how you look at it, could either be like 16 keyframes or just one.
Yeah, that's what I just asked him. So how do you select it all?
You just right click up here. You right click sort of like above it, the top keyframe in the chain here. You just select it, and you'll see everything else is highlighted here.
Now what? Now what?
And then you hit Shift D and you drag it over.
Shift D and drag.
I'm just gonna keep doing it. You just click and you just Shift D, duplicate it again. I'm gonna keep doing that.
Keep doing it.
Look how easy it is for me.
Shift D.
So good, you guys.
Okay.
Bam! There it is. Yeah. So now I've got 3 keyframes, and this last one here.
3 keyframes over here. So it looks like we got
Oh.
Too much.
We got more than 3 over here. Is that all right?
No, that's not okay.
No, that's not okay.
That's not okay at all.
Extra keyframes.
I mean, it depends. It depends what those keyframes were that you made. If you've got more keyframes, I mean, you'd have to look at them and decide which ones you need and which ones you don't. Maybe just delete them and see what happens. How's everyone doing? Do we have these 3 keyframes here?
Okay, we got 3 over here. No, she wants to keep them. So go.
All right, cool. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna select everything.
Select everything how?
Select everything, not in the 3D view, not like this. We're gonna select all the keyframes in the dope sheet here.
How?
Press A.
Press A.
Yeah, press A until everything is highlighted.
Until everything is highlighted orange.
Yeah. It bears repeating all of the selecting tools, all of everything. It's the same in the dope sheet as it is in the 3D view. So B, you press B to box select. You press A to select everything. You press Shift D to duplicate. You right click to select. You hold down Shift to select multiple things. Everything that's true for the 3D view is also true for the dope sheet.
Okay.
Look, you can even control select like this.
Lasso, yeah, lasso. Can you do C?
Let's see. You actually can do C. You can actually paint a selection of keyframes if you wanted to. I didn't even know that.
So what are we gonna do? Duplicate?
Okay, so once you have everything selected, we're going to hit Shift E, and we're going to select Make Cyclic right here. We're going to extrapolate our animation using the cyclic modifier, which can be applied or created right here in the dope sheet by pressing Shift E and choosing Make Cyclic.
Did you do that? Shift E?
Shift E. E as in elephant.
Elephant.
Which is not what we
Shift E
modeled.
and make cyclic. Did you do it? Shift E and make cyclic.
Okay, if this menu isn't coming up, you gotta make sure your cursor is in the dope sheet when you do it.
Got it. Okay, now try Shift E. There we go. Make cyclic. Here. He had a Shift D duplicate going.
Yeah. We don't want that.
Got it.
This is Shift E as in excellent platypus, not Shift D as in.
Well, we did a Shift E, but it's not so excellent over here.
Okay.
5 minutes left.
We got it.
Okay, so when you've done that, what you should get is this effect here, where your platypus keeps rocking back and forth, even after you run out of keyframes here in your dope sheet. Are you guys getting this effect? Just keeps going?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, we got one working. How about you, Paul?
No.
No.
No, run over these.
There you go.
He said if you go past them,
Well, no.
it'll still work, he said.
Oh, even because we made cyclic.
Yeah, that's right.
Beyond it? No, it's not working beyond it.
It's not working.
Okay, so what I want you to do is rather than pressing A, try this. Rather than pressing A here in the dope sheet, press A here where your channels are.
Okay. Press A in your channels.
And then do the same thing.
I think you pressed it twice. What should it look like when it's all selected?
Everything, all the letters should be highlighted white.
Okay, there it goes. It's working.
Okay, cool. After you've selected all the channels here, same thing. You want to press Shift E.
Shift E. After selecting them all.
Yeah, and choose Make Cyclic. I should add that this is not the end animation that we're making. We're actually going to do something like much cooler.
Okay, we got another one. We got two working. How about you, Paul?
Okay.
All right, we got it working.
I really want to show you guys this last step because it's very important. What we want to do is we want to offset each one of these channels. So what I'm going to do first is go from the head and then work my way down so that we're offsetting the order of these keyframes. Now check this out. What I'm going to do is press B. I'm going to box select all of the keyframes for my chest, the chest bone here. And I'm going to move them in this direction to the Y, to frame, not frame 6, frame 5 here.
And what do you do with them?
You have to show again what you did, Sam.
You want to. So they're right here, right?
Right.
We have them all selected. We want to move them just 5 frames down.
How did you select just those?
I got them selected, but how do you move them?
How do you move them?
So you press G. Same thing. Same way you move things in the 3D view. You press G.
All right, do it one more time, Sam.
Okay. So I'm gonna do this again. So you're right here. You want to make sure you've deselected everything else. I'm going to press B and just draw a long thin box around just these keyframes here for the chest.
Why do the three others on the top light up
Those
too?
are different things over there.
Yeah, we don't want those. We don't want those to be highlighted. Just the ones for the chest here. So the end result.
No,
Wait a minute.
just the chest. So the chest is the second one. So you want to. And then draw. That's right.
All it is going. Offset by how many?
5 frames.
So you have to create another window.
20 to 25. Are you talking about 5 past the last one, or 5 past the beginning?
Just move. We want to move these just 5 frames over, just like this.
Did you say you want it on 5 then?
Yeah, that's right. We want this first keyframe here to be on frame 5 instead of on frame 0 right here. We're just moving it over, and you'll actually see down in the corner in the header of your dope sheet while you're translating these keyframes, you'll see exactly how much you're translating them by, where it says delta X. We want that number to be 5.
Okay, we got it.
Yeah, we got it.
So select everything.
The next thing I want you to do is do the same thing for the tail down here.
Elvis.
Just select all the keyframes here for the tail and just move them over to frame 5.
Undulating.
Oh, I just noticed I moved them over to frame 6. I'm at frame 5.
Offset and everything. Okay, I think we're
We're ready to go for the next step there, Sam.
Okay, so have you done the same thing you did to the chest keyframes here? Try that same thing with all the tail keyframes. Just move them over to frame 5. And your end result should look a little something like this. We can actually get even crazier. I'm going to try animating the. I know we're in overtime now, but I'm going to try keying the location of the. Of the root bone as well. That looks a little bad. I don't know about that.
Yeah, we're going to have to do a recap probably, especially on this new territory stuff. This is completely out of my previous experience.
Yeah, maybe don't worry about what I just attempted to do, because this again, and this is like a very rough initial swim cycle here. You know, there's so much more we can do with the flippers. We can start, really thinking about the order.
Who here is shooting for perfection? Okay, we got one hand. We'll lock the doors and keep him out.
So when you're done, what we're looking for is I'm actually change the period of my animation to 240 instead of 250. So I should get, if I actually change it down to 20, I should get a perfect loop. Yeah. So now it just keeps going.
So what you did
So this is the result. This is the result that you're looking for. Is anyone else? Has anyone else been successful?
Yeah, you've been
Yeah, we got at least one successful. No, Paul, you still.
No, but it smooths it out when you stretch it out across a larger number of frames.
Duh.
All right.
Can you save that as a subroutine?
This one is Legion. That one's Deadpool.
For the flash.
So who's still behind?
Me. I
Oh,
got to the point where.
well, you and I both are gonna have to catch up to speed. Do as best
Are we
can on-
saving this as a video so that? Look at the instruction that-
After doing all of this, you get to make your own 5 to 10 second
That's not what
animation.
she was asking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
She was asking if the tutorial is being saved as a video.
Yeah, Sam, I had a question for you. I was hoping that you had saved a model rig in place of it. You did now. You got the Duckbill Platypus 02.
Yeah.
Can you save this as well as the 03?
Yeah, sure. What I can do actually.
And people that are having extreme difficulty can download this stage.
Yeah, sure.
The instruction and video showing us the steps we were going through as if it were tutorial video. That's what she
Oh,
wants.
are there some
Yeah, but
tutorials you
what
can
video
recommend
what
for
we're
watching
talking
this?
about?
that don't-
Oh, you mean like what tutorial did I watch to make
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. Is there some?
I mean,
there's some homework that we can do. Some video tutorial homework we can do.
I'm afraid I'm not very good at referencing other video tutorials.
So if you want
I mean, what video tutorial did that guy watch? You know?
a really good one, you may
Sam is probably made by Jonathan Williamson.
Oh yeah, of course. No, it's Jonathan Williamson. Is what you do
Really good
if
one
you
is
want to find Jonathan Williamson.
humane rigging.
It is really great for rigging animation stuff.
Oh wait, did he really? Did Jonathan Williamson do humane rigging?
It's a
Okay.
video tutorial.
Is it?
You can also find it on YouTube.
All right. Well, yeah. Thanks everyone at Blender PDX for watching me. Everyone on and around the world. Go and spread peace. Because this is my only chance to speak to a worldwide audience. So.